Arrest warrant has been issued for potential #1 NFL draft pick Jalen Carter. They are charging him with reckless driving.
The returns right now are this has to impact his draft stock.
This is not the news we had planned for you guys today. We actually had a lot of fun videos planned for today, like Brittany Mahomes getting into some random beef with Joe Rogan. We also had videos on the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants planned for today. But whenever you get breaking news like this, that could potentially jeopardize the future of a top pick in this upcoming NFL draft, and an arrest warrant is out for said pick, obviously that takes precedence. Although it's really unfortunate that we have to make this video because there's a lot of sad stuff in this video. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. Now that we got all that out of the way, work! Today's video is sponsored by Private Internet Access, or PIA, the world's most transparent VPN provider. A virtual private network, or VPN for short, hides your IP address and safeguards your internet connection through an encrypted tunnel. This way it shields your digital life from those that are trying to exploit your private information. But there's also a lot of cool things you could do with it too. For example, I have NBA League Pass and I don't have cable, so there's no way I could watch the Los Angeles Lakers play when I'm in LA because it's technically blacked out. But what if I use my VPN to say that I'm currently in Denver, Colorado? Well, then I could access League Pass to watch my Los Angeles Lakers lose. With over 30 million downloads, PIA never records or stores user data, and their no logs policy has been proven multiple times in court. Private Internet Access hides your IP address and encrypts your internet connection. This way it shields your digital life from the eyes of your internet service provider, network administrators, or government censors. Private Internet Access comes with a load of benefits and works with all major streaming services, so you can access more content than ever from all parts of the world. Signing up for Private Internet Access is risk-free. By clicking my link in the description box, you'll get an 83% discount off of Private Internet Access. That's $2.03 a month, and you'll also get 4 months for free. And thank you, PIA, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? This upcoming NFL draft is a fairly exciting NFL draft. There's a ton of running back talent, defense is looking really good. It's a much better quarterback class than last year, and we're already beginning the process of becoming very familiar with some of the names in the NFL draft. For example, you probably already know who Bryce Young is. We actually made a video on him yesterday. Well, kind of. There's this one rumor that the Chicago Bears were planning on trading Justin Fields to select Bryce Young in the NFL draft. And then later on, that was kind of redacted, and the Bears then said that they fully intend on trading the top pick in the NFL draft to a team that would presumably trade up to draft Bryce Young.
Wow, who would have thought that first part was a smokescreen? Not me.
But anyways, you probably know who Bryce Young is. You probably know who CJ Stroud is. But the top defensive prospect in this upcoming NFL draft, a player that was widely presumed to be selected by the Chicago Bears if they choose to keep their pick, which by the way seems very unlikely at this point. It's like a foregone conclusion that they're going to trade that top pick to any team that wants to select a quarterback with the #1 pick. But if they were, their top pick would probably be a player like Will Anderson Jr., an outside linebacker from Alabama, or Jalen Carter. I'm sure you guys have heard of Jalen Carter a couple times over the past year, but for those of you guys that don't know who he is, he without a doubt possesses the most upside out of any defensive prospect in the entire NFL. It's not like a foregone conclusion that he's automatically going to be a hit, because at the same time, as promising as he looks, Jalen Carter also comes with some negatives. Although he was a part of Georgia's national championship team over the past 2 years, there's also some concerns in regards to the fact that he was only a 1-year starter. It was a very impressive year. He possesses all the traits that you would want in an interior defensive lineman, but that still is a little scary. Hell, every player comes with pros and cons, but Jalen Carter definitely is a little risky. But he definitely has a really nice story behind him. He grew up playing basketball and football, but dreamed of making it to the NFL one day. His AAU basketball team director said that Carter could easily become an NBA prospect if he wanted to. However, he had his sights on football and eventually became a 5-star recruit and committed to Georgia. Since then, he's won 2 national championships and has established himself as the top defensive tackle in the country. He's on the cusp of potentially being the first Georgia defensive tackle selected in the top 5 of the NFL draft in their program's history. It's one hell of a story. And also let me know in the comment section down below, if you had the opportunity to play in the NBA and get a max NBA salary versus the NFL, which would you choose? But that's not the only thing we had on Jalen Carter. There were some negatives as well. Some that actually came out of nowhere that kind of annoyed me and annoyed a lot of football fans, both college and NFL, both Georgia Bulldog fans and non-Georgia Bulldogs fans, because it seemed like a case of sabotage. Back in December, there was a report coming from one of the most influential individuals that covers the NFL draft. Whenever you think of the NFL draft, you mainly think of 2 people that are overanalyzing everything. One being this man right here, and the other being Todd McShay. Out of nowhere, Todd McShay just one day decided to say that Jalen Carter, well, I think it's better that you see it for yourself.
Agree. It doesn't take a super scout to figure out that he's a phenomenal player in the interior. It's early in the process, but I'm forewarning everyone out there. Carter, there's some character issues. Does he get along with everybody? What's he like to deal with in the locker room?
I don't mind if any individual wants to give you a heads up and say, hey, this human being has character issues or this human being has specific red flags. After all, whenever you have a high pick in the NFL draft, you want to hit on it. That's a very valuable pick. You could get a lot of draft capital if you were to trade one of those higher picks in the NFL draft. So if you were to pick a player and it doesn't pan out, obviously that'd be very disappointing, especially when you take a look at the players that are available instead. And I could understand that, but I really don't like whenever someone just comes out of nowhere and says,
hey, I heard this man has character issues. Do you really want to select him with the top 5 pick in the NFL draft?
And ultimately, there's a lot of clapping back towards this. I mean, there was this example right here, how Jalen Carter and his mom put on a football camp for kids at the high school where he graduated. There's this other story about how Jalen Carter's teammate Weston Wallace was asked about his thoughts on Jalen Carter. Wallace was a walk-on defensive lineman that doesn't get to eat with the team during team meals. This was a rule about scholarship and non-scholarship amenities put in place by the NCAA. So this season, Jalen Carter picked up his meals. Jalen heard about that. I'm the only walk-on in the defensive line room, and he goes, I'm not going to let that happen. So he used his scholarship money to pay for me to get lunch every single day. You honestly don't know the guy if you think that. You can ask anybody on the team, whether it's O-line that he bullies every day out there. Everybody thinks he's an all-around great guy, and I think he'll be great for any team that picks him. There were multiple instances of people backing up Jalen Carter at this point, and Jalen Carter himself responded in a very classy manner by saying this.
It didn't affect me. I'm always a positive guy. I look at the positive side. I never look at the negative. I try to stay away from that. And when it came out, I really didn't pay no mind to it. I just talked to my team and told them, let's keep going.
Was it easy to shrug it off, or did it, like at first, did it kind of hit you? Was it right away? I don't care. Or did it take a minute to kind of let go of?
No, it didn't take a minute to let go of it. I really let it go as soon as I first heard it. And I just kept moving on. I told my team, let's do it. Let's just go to the playoffs and ball out.
At this point, you probably understand Jalen Carter is a top pick in this upcoming NFL draft. I can't emphasize that point enough. As a matter of fact, if you go to Mel Kiper's most recent NFL mock draft, obviously the assumption throughout every single mock draft in the NFL is that the Chicago Bears are going to trade the #1 overall pick. We explained why in our last video. But if you go all the way down to the #4 pick in the NFL draft, team that has the top pick, the Chicago Bears, are expected to take Jalen Carter in this draft with the 4th pick, assuming they trade down. If that's not enough, well, you could also go to CBS Sports' NFL mock draft, which in this scenario, they have Jalen Carter going at #3. Regardless, you can see he's within the top 2 defensive players that are going to be off the board first in this upcoming NFL draft, which is why this news is very, very unfortunate. So today is the day of the NFL Draft Combine. For those of you guys that don't know, this is where upcoming NFL draft prospects arrive in Indianapolis, go through a series of drills, and get evaluated based upon physical workouts. Stuff like the 40-yard dash, how many times you could bench press 225 pounds, a cone drill, etc., etc. But Jalen Carter was nowhere to be found. This is peculiar whenever you're one of the top prospects in this upcoming NFL draft. And we found out why from multiple sources, and the story is very tragic. So bear in mind, Jalen Carter does deny that this ever whatever happened, and we're going to get to his response to this in just a sec. So before we get to the investigation and the most recent news, you guys have to know like what actually went down in the very beginning. The story goes like this. There were two human beings in one vehicle, one being a University of Georgia football recruit staffer by the name of Chandler LaCroix. She's 24 years old. She was in a car with a Georgia offensive lineman by the name of Devin Willock, 20 years old, and their lives both ended when the SUV that LaCroix was driving crashed on Barnett Shoals Road on January 15th. This happened just hours after the Bulldogs celebrated their second consecutive national championship with a parade in downtown Athens, and another football recruiter and player were injured in the crash. The reason why this became a big deal is because we found out today, apparently and allegedly, the reason why the recruiter was speeding is she was illegally racing Jalen Carter when the crash happened, and this resulted in the warrant for his arrest. So here's the whole investigation now that you guys have that info. According to Ari Meirov, an arrest warrant has been issued for Georgia defensive tackle and potential number one pick Jalen Carter for reckless driving and racing. It stems from the January 15th crash that took the life of a teammate and a staffer. Carter was on the schedule to speak at the NFL Combine at 10:30 Eastern. That didn't end up happening. So here's the report. As a result of the ongoing investigation into the January 15, 2023 fatal crash that occurred in the 900 block of Barnett Shoals Road, the Athens Clark County Police Department has secured arrest warrants for Jalen Carter for reckless driving and racing. The investigation found that Chandler LaCroix, the driver of a 2021 Ford Expedition, and Jalen Carter, the driver of a 2021 Jeep Trackhawk, were operating their vehicles in a manner consistent with racing shortly after leaving the downtown Athens area at about 2:30 a.m. So pretty much the image that I have in my head is you have this blonde woman, Chandler LaCroix, who is a recruiter for Georgia, and an offensive lineman driving together. The recruiter is absolutely plastered out of her mind, nearly 3 times the legal BAC as you're about to see, and she's allegedly driving Jalen Carter at 2:30 a.m. after they leave the celebratory parade. Now that's not it. The evidence demonstrated that both vehicles switched between lanes, drove in the center turn lane, drove in opposite lanes of travel, overtook other motorists, and drove at high rates of speed in an apparent attempt to outdistance one another. Evidence indicated that shortly before the crash, the Expedition was traveling at about 104 miles per hour. The toxicology report indicated that LaCroix's blood alcohol concentration was 0.197 at the time of the crash. Investigators determined that alcohol impairment, racing, reckless driving, and speed were significant contributing factors to the crash. The case will be given to the Solicitor General's office. I'd like to start this out by saying my heart goes out to Chandler LaCroix's family, but especially Devin Willock's family. He's 20 years old. He was an offensive lineman on Georgia. He had his whole life ahead of him. Who knows? He may have even had a promising career in the NFL. And as a result of his celebration gone bad, and maybe a human being saying that they're good to drive despite their BAC being nearly 3 times the legal limit, this young man, Devin Willock, lost his life. I have empathy for Chandler LaCroix's family as well. In her early 20s, clearly a horrific mistake that she will never get the opportunity to learn from. If you're lucky, you do make mistakes and have the chance to learn from it. But some mistakes are so unfortunate and so tragic, you never have the opportunity to recover. And it seems like that's one of those mistakes. My heart goes out to both of their families before we continue to discuss how this could affect a young man's career. First things first, before we get to Kirby Smart and what he has to say and Jalen Carter and his reaction, we need to discuss how Jalen Carter is a young 21-year-old man. He has the opportunity to learn from this horrific mistake that I wish there were more human beings taking a lesson from what happened with Henry Ruggs and applying it to themselves. Drinking and driving, I don't know if Jalen Carter was operating a vehicle while impaired. I don't even know if he was the human being that was being raced against, because you're going to see his response. He denies everything happening. These are all allegations.
Don't sue me!
One would assume that after seeing what happened to Henry Ruggs, you would think, okay, this young man on Alabama's football team who was selected in the first round of the NFL draft that was making millions of dollars and was having a team built around him threw his life away because he got way too hammered at Topgolf and decided to race his Corvette in the middle of the night, driving 200 miles per hour, and end up crashing his vehicle into another woman who literally got incinerated to death. I mean, you would think more human beings, especially in the world of football, would take a lesson from this, but of course, young kids make mistakes. In Jalen Carter's situation, I would hope that you would see the opportunity that he has at hand, an opportunity to build generational wealth for himself and his family, and realize that there are going to be threats to that, whether those threats are financial in terms of people trying to screw him with shady investments, or those threats are via his own behavior or putting himself in bad situations that clearly are bad ideas. And you would think, as a result of the situation he's in, the fact that he is a lock to go in the top 5 in the NFL draft, you would know better than to even participate in something like this. I'm not saying how dare you go ahead and celebrate, but I am saying that if something sounds like a truly horrific idea, like racing another car in the middle of the night after a championship parade while you guys are inebriated, although there is no report of Jalen Carter being under the influence while he's operating his car, you would think that he would take a step back and say,
I already have this one BS report about me having character issues. I don't want to perpetuate some false report that's already being put out on me.
because that's what people are saying right now. They're saying that Todd McShay warned all of us that Jalen Carter has character issues. And to be honest, I don't necessarily think he has character issues. I think he either put himself in a bad situation or made a horrific mistake. I don't necessarily think that he's going to be a bad teammate as a result of it. Additional reports also state that Jalen Carter was present at the scene of a teammate's fatal car crash and then drove away and misled the police about it afterwards. Carter told police he was a mile away when the crash happened, but later said he was alongside the car when it crashed. I can't really participate in he said, she said. I'm already commenting on way too many what if scenarios for this video, so let's get to what Kirby Smart has to say about this situation and then Jalen Carter's response. The statement from UGA head football coach Kirby Smart. The charges announced today are deeply concerning, especially as we are still struggling to cope with the devastating loss of 2 beloved members of our community. We will continue to cooperate fully with the authorities while supporting these families and assessing what we can learn from this horrible tragedy. And this brings us all the way to what Jalen Carter posted onto his Twitter as we were recording this video. So the statement from Jalen Carter says this morning I received a telephone call from the Athens, Georgia Police Department informing me that 2 misdemeanor warrants have been issued against me for reckless driving and racing. Numerous media reports also have circulated this morning containing inaccurate information concerning the tragic events of January 15, 2023. It is my intention to return to Athens to answer the misdemeanor charges against me and to make certain that the complete and accurate truth is presented. There is no question in my mind that when all of the facts are known, that I will be fully exonerated of any criminal wrongdoing. At the end of the day, kind of conflicted about how I feel about this. First things first, anytime a loss of life results from people being stupid like this, it truly hurts my soul because this could have been avoided. It also hurts me that there are individuals that are not going to have the opportunity to learn from this horrific mistake. And that's why I'm so harsh on drinking and driving. At the same time, it's very unfortunate because if Jalen Carter wasn't involved truly in this situation, there's going to be a narrative painted around him. There already was in regards to Todd McShay saying he has character issues, even though there wasn't any evidence. And now some people could take this and run away with it, even though it's an allegation, even if it is proven to be untrue. At the end of the day, man, I really don't have much else to say about this. It's just a really, really crappy story, and my heart goes out to the families involved, and I hope Jalen Carter could learn a lesson from this and still have a remarkable career in the NFL while learning never to do this again. And I just hope more football players, more human beings take a lesson from this. Don't drink and drive. I don't care if it's 2 a.m. I don't care if you feel good about yourself or if you don't feel buzzed. A $20, $30, $40, $50 Uber doesn't even compare to the potential of you losing your life or getting a very, very crippling DUI. I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.